Can you beat it? October 18th. What's up, buddy? We're doing it. I'll show you guys the decoy setup. All right, guys, we just got out to this 95-acre farm that I bought a few years ago. This is where my little boy Xander killed that heavy 8 last late muzzy season, so it was a little after Christmas. It's warm, it's October 20th. I want to get some stands hung, so I'm not hunting today. Still riding high on shooting my buck a couple days ago, and still catching up on summer projects and getting stands hung. So we just got beans off this 45-acre tillable field, and we actually got our fall fertilizer in and got our wheat cover crop drilled. And now I'm in here today, just I've got 4 or 5 stands I want to get put in. These are all areas that I've kind of been mapping out over the last few years and want to get like permanent sets where we don't have to worry about doing hanging hunts each time we come in. I've got a couple stands hung out here, but it will be good to have a few more so we can, in case a good buck shows up that we want to hunt, we can get in here. Also, good buddy Tyler Jordan's coming up this year. He drew a tag for Iowa, and this is one of the farms when he came over this summer we looked at, and he really liked this farm. And there's a good 10 that we filmed in velvet out here that's mature, that's regular, and Tyler's gonna be up here in a couple of weeks. And so we're gonna get these stands hung and ready to go for him when he gets here. So right now we're at this little finger that comes up into the big tillable field. And I mowed a path through here a few years ago, and the deer just love it. You know, there's a big CRP to the south, and so they come into the field, and instead of walking around, they'll cut through here. And the pond's here. So if you hunt this, if we get it east, we can blow our wind back over the pond. This is a pretty deep drainage that goes into the pond, this old waterway. And the head of that ditch is right here, so I mowed right around it. So it sets up well. I'm gonna put a stand in this tree right here, and got a camera on the scrape here. There's a lot of bucks cutting through there, so I'll be spot number 1. It's a neat little spot. You can see what I'm talking about. This head of the ditch, trail goes around the head of the ditch, and then we can sneak up from the pond. I got the mowed lane around the pond, and they've got this little drainage. Have it where the hunter's facing this way. I think the best will be accessing it from the... This will be really good in the morning with rising thermals. You know, you see these cruising bucks get out in the field and you call to them. This little pocket right here is between, you know, does. Always try to clear out at the base of the tree. That way when we're right here setting up in the morning, hooking on stuff to the pull-up rope, we're not crunching sticks and leaves. This is one of the best cameras. Get tons of pictures on this camera. Because they come down the edge there and they cut across and go down that mowed lane. That's set, I just went check. And I like it, but you almost need to be in the morning with rising thermals because deer just come out of everywhere. You know, it's gonna be harder to hunt in the afternoon. I ended up finding this tree that we're about to hang in because of this deep ravine. and we've got the mowed lanes in there, but a southwest wind falling into that ravine is gonna work pretty dang well. Well, just got done with the last set. That's 5 total sets on this 95 acres. One on this food plot, and then the other is kind of around the periphery of the field for different wind setups. And then we can make adjustments based on that. There's definitely a few obvious spots back in the timber. Just need to get more sets. I hung what I had in my truck. I'm happy with the work done. Got all the cameras back up and a couple low batteries changed out, and basically ready to roll. So 2 weeks, Tyler will be here, and then hopefully we'll get him a buck on the ground. Hey guys, welcome back to the chase. It is Wednesday, October 23rd, and we had a nice cold front come through Iowa yesterday. Right now the temp is about 37 degrees, high pressure, cool afternoon. I worked all day, and Gavin and I came out to the home farm. We made a really fun sit on the ground over a decoy, and had a great hunt. Lots of deer in the field and the cut corn, and we're gonna show you that hunt. We're gonna end this episode with that hunt. Before we go to that, we're gonna rewind the clock a little bit. If you follow us on social media, you know that I shot a buck last Friday. That was October 18th. It's a buck we call Vinny. And once upon a time, we referred to him a couple times as Ghost. You know, we got 3 years of history with this buck. This is the buck I mentioned in the moss encounter. I was hoping he would show up. And I'm really glad he did. You know, October 17th, we get a picture of him in the plot. And you know, I'm looking at conditions. The conditions were the same from the 17th to the 18th. They weren't great. It's full moon. Temps are lower 70s, and not exactly middle of October weather conditions where you say, I'm gonna go hunt a buck. But we are super excited to put this hunt together for you guys. It's gonna be on next Monday's main show in just a few days. On my chase video, what I wanna do is do a spot breakdown for the south plot. So the spot where he popped up October 17th is an area on the south end of the river bottom farm that we call the south plot. It's a spot that I identified literally the first time I walked the farm. So it was spring, the farm was going up for auction. I got permission to go, you know, view the farm as you would before you buy something, and was walking around, and I just jumped tons of deer out of that area when I was walking around. There was just a bunch of deer bedded in there. And so immediately I was like, okay, this is obviously a key area they like to bed. And then looking around, there's this perfect inside corner there that has multiple different, like, sort of little pinches. The old riverbed goes through there. You got a really big, thick cottonwood area that's a strip of, used to be field, but had grown up in small cottonwoods. You've got the kind of classic river edge, river bottom thicket there, and then that transitions out to the destination ag fields. There's hundreds of acres of crops that are just right through the timber, on the other side of the timber. So, you know, looking at it, I was like, well, this lot of bedding right here, you've got a great inside corner to put a food plot. And then studying access, originally it wasn't as obvious to me, but there's a nice ditch that basically where we park, we can hop in that ditch and sneak up the ditch right to the blind. And I started dissecting that further on down the line when I put the food plot in and started working on trees and what winds I would hunt it on. But it sets up super well for a southwest wind, and we've got great access in that ditch and back out. You know, the river bottom is all flat, so you don't have topography to help you. I've got a lot of thickets, willow thickets and tall natives that help us, but that ditch just gets you below line of sight and helps for some of those more open areas of maple, river bottom country. And so we're able to sneak in and out of that stand. Key point of, I think, killing bucks early in the year is food tight to bedding. And so putting that food in the inside corner, 2, 3 big bedding areas right there, awesome hunt. We see multiple mature bucks and get this buck in bow range and have success. So pretty cool. And that spot's worked for us well in the past. I mean, 2021, I filmed this deer we called Pincher. He was a 4-year-old. You know, he came in, we were doing Doe Fest at that time. It was early October. I wasn't on the hit list, but cool to see a 4-plus-year-old buck right there in the beginning of October. And then in my hunts for Kelsey, you know, made some sets there and encountered Kelsey there. We encountered Moss there. We encountered Fitz there, almost killed him there last year. Rye killed that 5-year-old buck Ronnie there. You know, and a lot of those hunts are November, late October, November, but That spot is just good all the time. So summary points here, I mean, I think food tied to bedding, we've said it over and over, is a very huge, important factor, particularly in early season hunting, mid-October. And this plot obviously acts as a staging area on their way out to the destination ag. So, you know, when they get out of their beds, they come stage there before they head out there. So you can find those kinds of scenarios. A lot of times you can be successful. The other small point I would add is using the most recent information in addition to historical information and not being so fixated on the perfect conditions. I mean, we talk a lot about October cold fronts, and of course that is my preference. Deer activity in general seems to be way better in those situations. But like in this case, the day before, he's active in there working a scrape in daylight, and I just thought to myself, well, what's stopping him from doing it again the next night? And so we went in there, despite it being, you know, 71, 72 degrees, full moon, all these things where you think it's not going to be great. You know, decided to go in there and sit and see what happens, and lo and behold, have success on a great buck, and you know, I couldn't be happier. So looking ahead, as I mentioned, this cold front came through yesterday, great conditions today, high pressure. We're gonna maintain this north wind here for a few more days, and then the wind's gonna switch back out of the south on Saturday, Sunday. And it's gonna warm us up. So Monday, Tuesday, we're looking at temps in the 80s again. And so that'll probably slow stuff down. I mean, this time of year, you can't put all your eggs in the weather basket. I mean, these bucks are getting excited, and so, you know, you gotta be out there. But as far as ideal conditions, these next 2 days are gonna be pretty good for this time of year. Last week of October is my absolutely favorite time of year to hunt. It's pre-rut, bucks are callable. They're waiting for those first available does to come in. And it can just be dynamite fun from a calling perspective and activity perspective. Then Halloween night, we're having another front come in. And starting on November 1st, it's gonna cool off, and that's looking really good. I mean, highs in the 60s, it's gonna be high pressure, and you couldn't time up something like that any better, particularly following some 80-degree days. So if you guys are thinking about when to get out, I think these next few days and even into this weekend are gonna be good. And then obviously November 1st through the 5th, 6th, 7th is looking pretty good weather-wise. We had an awesome hunt, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, so I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you next week on The Chase.
The old taxi driver.
Yeah, the whole Gavin taxi. So we'll park right here, and because since the wind's blowing that way, we'll put our ground set where the wind is. So that open gate right there is a little sneaky spot sometimes. So I think you can probably go right across, and then we just park right here on the right. So Gavin and I just got to our spot at the home farm, and it's not quite 5 o'clock, so we're running pretty late. We've got about 2 hours till dark, but trying something different. A lot of activity in the fresh cut corn in this bottom field. Had a couple mature bucks down there, and some that I definitely want to lay eyes on, some that I'd love to get footage of. And we're gonna go and sit on the ground, Gavin style, and put a decoy out and just kind of back up into the bushes. I didn't want to pull a blind. I didn't have time to pull a blind, and so we're just gonna go sit and see what happens. I normally sit against this trunk, and then maybe you could get back against the other tree. What's up, buddy? We're doing it. I'm gonna show you guys the decoy setup. So we are in the back cornfield. Normally we hunt up on the top. That's where I leave the food. Got the turnips in that little cove. Got the blind tucked back there. We've hunted it a couple times this year. And a lot of deer come out of the bedding and they filter through that little food plot out this direction into the cut corn. But they've kind of been bypassing the standing corn, and they're just coming out in the cut corn. And I've got cameras around this field, and over the last week or so, there's been quite a bit of activity. They're just working the scrapes on the edges, and a lot of it's that last hour of daylight. And I don't ground hunt like I used to. I used to, you know, not have access to as many stands or blinds, and I had one climbing stand when I was in Louisiana, and if I couldn't find a tree, I hunted on the ground. And I would make little brush blinds and did a lot of it. It's a lot of fun getting close to the deer, especially with the decoy. So today we brought in the buck decoy, and really as much as anything to draw the attention away from us. You know, so the deer aren't, if they're working up the edge, they don't just look and see like what's the blob in the woods. We have a really good cover. I'm in this little drainage ditch that dumps into the bigger creek. Had a couple trees fall right here. This whole entire farm is covered in multiflora rows. So there's just thick stuff everywhere. And I've actually turkey hunted right here in the spring, so I kind of knew this little setup, and it works well from a comfort standpoint. One of the main reasons I don't hunt on the ground as much as I used to is just because I'm getting old, and my knees and my back and all that kind of stuff, I don't do well sitting on the ground. I need a chair, and these little drainages work pretty well to get your butt, you know, on the high part, put your feet down in the ditch. So we cleaned all the brush out. We're about 10 feet apart from each other, maybe 12 feet. We've got the decoy out there facing back this direction, so hopefully Buck will slip around and face him. And we'll see. I mean, if I get an opportunity at a doe, I'm gonna take a doe. I need to take some off of this farm. Though the decoy usually deters the does from coming in close, you know. We had our front blow through yesterday. We got some rain, much needed rain, and it cooled off nicely today. The high's in the upper 60s, and it's just a beautiful high pressure day. Main buck I'm looking for out here would be Marty. I know for sure he's at least a 6-year-old. Real heavy deer. He's pretty cool looking. As much as anything, I'm hoping to lay eyes on some of these bucks and get footage of them and try to study them on the hoof and see what they look like, kind of see the social hierarchy, how they interact with other animals, that kind of stuff. I'm just happy to be out again. I have not been back out hunting since I shot my buck the buck Vinny last Friday. I've got the new Hoyt bow. Got it a few days ago, so I got it all sighted in and ready to go. It's an awesome bow. I love shooting it. Can't wait for you guys to be able to check it out here in the next couple weeks. We'll see how it goes. The one on the right that was nudging that doe looks like a 2 or 3-year-old. The one on the left looks like he's at least 4. He's looking at it. Well, we have just gotten back to the truck. That was a super fun hunt. I think all in all, we saw 20 plus deer. There was 4 or 5 bucks out there. Couple young bucks came check out the Decoy, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. As expected with the does, they kind of come out and they eye it and then they walk the other way. And we're getting late enough, October 23rd, I think based on some of the dates I've seen fawns born out here, it's possible that the first couple does will be coming in here pretty soon. So it is interesting. It is certainly interesting to think about that, but good activity nonetheless, particularly with this weather. Right now it's 38 degrees, so this front hit yesterday, high pressure, cool. It's just awesome movement.